someone is trying to bother you right now. They're saying things designed to get under your skin. They're doing things meant to provoke your reaction. And here's what they do want you to know. The moment you let them bother you, they win. The moment you react emotionally, they control you. The moment you lose your peace over their actions, you've handed them power over your internal state. But there's another way, a Machiavellian way, where nothing anyone does bothers you. Not because you don't care about anything, but because you understand something fundamental about power dynamics. The person who cannot be bothered cannot be controlled. Niccolò Machiavelli spent his life observing power. He noticed that rulers who could be provoked, manipulated, or bothered through their emotions were easily defeated. But rulers who remained unshaken regardless of what others said or did were nearly impossible to overcome. They had developed what I call strategic unbotherability, the ability to remain internally unmoved while external chaos swirls around them. Today, you'll learn how to develop this power. This isn't about suppressing emotions or becoming cold. This is about understanding why people try to bother you, what they gain when they succeed, and how to build such strong internal control that external provocations become irrelevant. You'll discover that being unbothered isn't weakness or indifference, it's the ultimate form of strength. But before we unlock this power, let me be clear, this will challenge everything you've been taught about standing up for yourself and defending your honor. Sometimes the strongest response is no response. Sometimes the most powerful action is remaining unmoved. Before we continue, if you're tired of letting people bother you and ready to take back control, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. And tell me in the comments, who or what has been bothering you and how do you typically react? Share honestly below because recognizing patterns is the first step to changing them. Now let's build your strategic unbotherability. The first principle. Understand that being bothered is a choice. This is the foundation. You don't get bothered, you choose to be bothered. Someone does something, that's an event. Your reaction to that event is a choice. Most people don't realize this because their reaction feels automatic. But automatic responses are just practiced choices you've repeated so often they feel involuntary. Machiavelli understood that power begins with taking responsibility for your internal state. Here's what happens when you believe external events force your reactions. Someone insults you, you believe you must feel offended because they insulted you. Their words appear to force your emotional response. You've given them control over how you feel. Someone disrespects you, you believe you must feel angry because disrespect demands anger. Their action appears to force your reaction. You've made your emotions dependent on their behavior. Someone tries to provoke you, you believe you must respond because not responding seems weak. Their provocation appears to force your action. You've let them dictate your behavior. The pattern is clear. When you believe external events force internal responses, you've surrendered control of your emotional state to others. You're a puppet and they're pulling strings. Diego, the 12th of May 2025, 13:22. Compare this to taking responsibility for your responses. Someone insults you. You recognize that their words are just sounds. Your interpretation of those sounds and your emotional response to that interpretation are your choices. You can choose to be unbothered. Someone disrespects you. You recognize that disrespect is their action, not your requirement to react. You can choose to note it and remain calm. You can choose to note it and remain calm. Your peace is your choice. Someone tries to provoke you. You recognize the provocation as manipulation attempt. You can choose to not give them the reaction they want. Your composure is your power. The pattern is clear. When you take responsibility for your responses, you maintain control of your emotional state regardless of what others do. You're not a puppet, you're the master of your internal kingdom. Here's why this principle is transformative. You stop being a victim of others' actions. When you realize you choose your responses, you can't claim victimhood. You're empowered, not victimized. You become unpredictable to manipulators. When they can't reliably trigger your reactions, they lose their power over you. You preserve your energy for what matters. Being bothered consumes enormous emotional energy. Choosing to be unbothered conserves that energy for productive use. You develop actual strength. It takes no strength to react emotionally. It takes immense strength to remain unbothered when provoked. This strength compounds over time. Here's how you implement this principle. First, catch yourself when you start to feel bothered. In that moment, remind yourself, This feeling is my choice. I'm choosing this response. Can I choose differently? This question creates space for choice. Second, practice delayed responding. When something happens that would normally bother you, commit to waiting before responding. In that delay, you often realize you don't need to be bothered at all. Third, reframe events from they remaking me feel X to I am choosing to feel X about their action. This linguistic shift reinforces that you're choosing, not being forced. Fourth, start with small provocations. Don't try to be unbothered by major things immediately. Practice on minor annoyances. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Choose to be unbothered. Build the skill with small things. Fifth, celebrate wins. Every time you choose to be unbothered when you normally would have reacted, acknowledge it. This reinforcement strengthens the pattern. When you deeply internalize that being bothered is a choice, you've taken the first step to becoming The power shift is immediate and profound. The second principle, recognize that people bother you to control you. This insight destroys most provocation's power. When you understand why someone is trying to bother you, the attempt loses effectiveness. Machiavelli taught that understanding motivations is key to defeating strategies. When you see through the provocation to the underlying manipulation, you're no longer vulnerable to it. Here's why people try to bother you: to make you react emotionally so you make poor decisions. When you're angry, scared, or hurt, your judgment is impaired. This serves anyone competing with you. Your emotional reaction benefits them strategically, to distract you from your goals. When you're bothered and focused on them, you're not focused on your objectives. This relative advantage helps them while hurting you. Your distraction is their gain. To establish dominance by proving they can affect you. When they bother you and you react, they've proven they have power over your emotional state. This dominance serves their ego and establishes social hierarchy with them above you, to feel better about themselves by bringing you down. When they make you feel bad, they feel comparatively better. Your lowered state elevates their relative position. Your pain is their comfort. The pattern is clear. Provocation is strategic manipulation designed to benefit the provoker at your expense. Once you see this clearly, the game changes. Here's what happens when you recognize provocation as manipulation. The provocation becomes obvious and therefore ineffective. When you see someone trying to manipulate you, the manipulation doesn't work. Transparency destroys manipulation's power. You feel pity rather than anger toward the provoked. Someone so desperate for control that they need to provoke others is weak, not strong. This perspective shift changes your emotional response from anger to something closer to sympathy. You refuse to give them what they want. Since you understand they want your emotional reaction, you deny them that satisfaction. This refusal is power. You maintain your strategic position. Since you're not distracted or emotional, you continue pursuing your goals effectively. They failed to gain advantage through provocation. The pattern is clear. Understanding provocation as strategic manipulation neutralizes it. Here's why this understanding creates unbotherability. You stop taking things personally. When you realize their provocation is about controlling you, not about you inherently, personal offense disappears. It's not about you. It's about their attempt at control. You become analytical instead of emotional. Instead of reacting emotionally, you analyze. Why are they trying to bother me? What do they gain if I react? This analytical stance prevents emotional reaction. You deprive manipulators of their desired outcome. You maintain power in all interactions. Power flows to the person who controls their emotions. When you're unbothered while they're trying to bother you, the power dynamic is clear. Here's how you implement this principle. First, when someone tries to bother you, immediately ask yourself, what do they gain if I react emotionally? This question reveals the manipulation and diffuses it. Second, look for patterns in who tries to bother you. Often the same types of people, those threatened by you, those competing with you, those insecure around you. When praised, they feel good. When criticized, they feel bad. This dependence makes them controllable through opinion manipulation. Machiavelli understood that the prince who needs others' approval can be controlled through that need. Here's what outcome dependence creates. You're bothered by criticism because your confidence depends on others' validation. Someone criticizes you and your emotional state drops because you needed their approval. They control you through their opinion. You're bothered by gossip because your reputation in others' eyes matters too much to you. Someone spreads rumors and you're devastated because you need others to think well of you. They control you through managing what others think. Diego, the 12th of May, 2025, 13:22. You're bothered by disrespect because your sense of worth depends on others' treatment. Someone disrespects you and you're hurt because you need their respect to feel valuable. They control you through their level of respect. The pattern is clear. When your emotional state depends on others' opinions, actions, or words, those others control your emotional state. You're not free. When your worth doesn't depend on others' opinions, criticism is just data. Gossip becomes noise to ignore, not reputation to defend desperately. When you're secure in who you are, what others say matters less. You can't be bothered by opinions of people whose opinions you don't value. Disrespect becomes others' problem, not yours. When someone disrespects you, it reveals their character, not your worth. You remain unbothered because their behavior doesn't define you. Praise also loses its power to inflate you. This is the flip side. When criticism can't deflate you and praise can't inflate you, you remain steady regardless of others' responses. This consistency is power. Here's how you develop outcome independence. First, identify where you're outcome dependent. What opinions bother you? Whose approval do you need? Whose respect matters too much? Awareness is the first step. Second, practice validation from within. Instead of seeking others' approval, approve of yourself when you've lived according to your values. This internal validation reduces need for external validation. Third, actively seek situations where you might be criticized or judged and practice not caring about the outcome. Deliberately expose yourself to potential judgment and practice being unbiased. This builds immunity. Fourth, remember that people's opinions of you reveal more about them than about you. Their opinions are filtered through their experiences, insecurities, and biases. Their opinion is about them, not you. Fifth, develop such strong sense of self that others' opinions become interesting but not determinative. You might be curious what others think, but it doesn't change what you know about yourself. When you develop outcome independence, you become unbotherable because the main weapons people use against you, criticism, gossip, disrespect, no longer work. You're not dependent on their approval, so their disapproval has no power. The fourth principle, maintain strategic detachment from drama. Drama is designed to pull you in emotionally. Once you're emotionally invested in drama, you're bothered by every development in it. Machiavelli would advise strategic detachment, observe without absorbing. Participate only when strategic, never get emotionally invested in others' chaos. Here's what happens when you engage with drama. Someone involves you in conflict between them and someone else. You take a side emotionally. Now every development in their conflict bothers you because you're invested. Now you're bothered by your inability to manage their chaos. You've made yourself responsible for their drama. Now their problems bother you even though they're not your problems. You've taken on emotional weight that isn't yours. The pattern is clear. Engaging with others' drama makes you vulnerable to being bothered by situations that are unto your responsibility and that you cue and control. If it doesn't, you ignore it. Either way, you're not emotionally bothered because you're not emotionally invested. You offer help if appropriate and possible, but you don't take on their emotional burden. Strategic detachment keeps you unbothered because you're not emotionally invested in situations you don't control. Here's why strategic detachment is powerful. You conserve emotional energy. Drama is exhausting. Detachment is restful. You make better decisions. Emotional investment clouds judgment. Detachment maintains clarity. You respond more effectively when you're not bothered. You become someone people can't manipulate through drama. When creating drama doesn't affect you, people stop using drama as a manipulation tactic with you. People know you won't be pulled into their drama, so they don't try. Here's how you maintain strategic detachment. First, recognize drama when it starts. Drama has signatures: excessive emotion, attempts to create sides, problems that never seem to resolve, situations that somehow always need your emotional investment. Second, practice the phrase, "Not my circus, not my monkeys." When someone tries to involve you in their drama, mentally repeat this. It reminds you that their situation isn't your responsibility. Third, set clear boundaries about emotional investment. You can care about people without taking on their emotional chaos. Fourth, respond to drama with practical questions, not emotional engagement. This redirects from drama to problem solving or reveals that they want emotional validation you're not providing. Fifth, be willing to be seen as cold by dramatic people. Drama-oriented people will criticize your detachment. That's fine. Their opinion that you're not emotionally available for their chaos is actually a compliment. When you maintain strategic detachment, most everyday drama can't bother you because you're not in it. You observe from outside, respond strategically if necessary, but remain internally unmoved. This detachment is freedom. Diego, the 12th of May 2025, 1322, the sixth principle. Master the power of non-reaction. This is the ultimate expression of being unbothered. Strategic non-reaction. When provoked, attacked, insulted, or challenged, your response is nothing. Not suppressed emotion, appearing as nothing, but genuine non-reaction because nothing they did merits reaction. Machiavelli observed that sometimes the most powerful response is no response. Here's what non-reaction accomplishes. It denies the provoker their desired outcome. They wanted emotional reaction. They got nothing. This is deeply frustrating and disempowering for them. It demonstrates supreme control. Only very controlled people can be provoked and not react. Your non-reaction displays strength that reaction never could. It confuses and disarms. When expected reaction doesn't come, the provoker doesn't know what to do next. Their script expected your reaction. Your non-reaction breaks their script. It makes you unpredictable and therefore powerful. When people can't predict your responses, they can't manipulate you effectively. The pattern is clear. Strategic non-reaction is powerful precisely because it's unexpected and denies others what they wanted. Compare this to reactive responses. Someone provokes you. You react emotionally. You've given them exactly what they wanted. They've proven they control you. You've displayed weakness, not strength. Someone insults you. You defend or counterattack. You've entered their frame. You're now playing their game by their rules. They control the interaction. Someone tries to distract you. You engage with the distraction. The pattern is clear. Here's how you master non-reaction. First, practice the pause. Between stimulus and response, insert a pause. In that pause, decide whether response serves you. Often it doesn't. Non-reaction is the strategic choice. Second, visualize provocation sliding off you like water off a duck. This mental image helps create the internal experience of being unaffected. Their provocation simply doesn't stick. Third, practice non-reaction to small provocations. Someone makes a rude comment. Don't react. Just observe. Build this skill with small things before applying it to large provocations. Fourth, if you must respond, wait until you can respond strategically rather than emotionally. Sometimes response is strategically necessary, but immediate emotional response rarely is. Wait, plan, then respond strategically if response is needed. Fifth, remember that non-reaction isn't weakness. Our culture teaches that not responding to provocation is weakness. This is false. Non-reaction from strength is the ultimate power move. Don't confuse it with passive weakness. When you master non-reaction, you become truly unbotherable because even the most aggressive provocations get nothing from you. You've now learned the 6 principles that make you unbotherable, but principles without practice are worthless. Here's your implementation protocol. First, this week, choose one principle to focus on and practice it in every relevant situation. Don't try to implement all 6 at once. Master one, then add another. Second, track your progress. Note when you successfully remained unbothered and when you failed. This documentation shows progress and reveals patterns. Third, practice in progressively challenging situations. Start with minor provocations. Build your unbotherability with practice. Gradually apply it to more significant challenges. Fourth, develop a personal mantra for moments of provocation. Mine is that chaos is not my problem. Find one that reminds you to stay unbothered. Fifth, celebrate every win. Every time you remain unbothered when you would have previously reacted, acknowledge it. This reinforcement builds the habit. If this video gave you the framework to never let anyone bother you again, hit that like button. Drop a comment, which principle resonated most and what S1 situation where you practice remaining unbothered. Your commitment might inspire someone else. Until next time, remember, being bothered is a choice. People try to bother you to control you. Others' opinions don't determine your worth. Drama only affects you if you engage. Purpose makes provocations irrelevant. Non-reaction is power. Implement these principles. Become unbotherable. Nobody controls your peace but you. Stay calm, stay powerful, stay unbothered.